Hello everyone and welcome back to the Cyclocross Social podcast. On New Year's Day there is always the traditional race in Baal, which is part of the X2O Trofee. Here with me to talk about the cyclocross races here are Twan and Issam.
Hello.
Hey everybody and Happy New Year.
Well, Sven Nys, he used to ride here up the Balerberg, and the race it carries his name, the GP Sven Nys. And for a pretty long time we had a pretty decent battle here with quite some riders at the front. Tell us about it, Issam.
Yeah, in the men's race, it was a very good start from everybody. No real problems. It were the Turmans boys that really were leading in the first lap. Hermans and Van Kessel were really strong. From there on, it was actually Pidcock that thought that it was enough to have such a big group. He tried to break the group in parts. Vanderpool saw the danger and followed him. Iserbyt was close by. Van Aert had a little bit of hiccups here and there, and but managed to stay up with the group. Van Kessel had a very bad crash on the barriers, but that went all right, I guess. He had no real issues, but it hampered him in the course of the race. Van Aert saw the danger in the two in front with Vanderpool and Pidcock, bridged the gap and actually led that group for a while. We had a leading group for a while with Van Toerenhout, Vanderpool, Pidcock, Van Aert and Iserbyt. We were thinking that it was going to be maybe those five battling for the victory, and then Vanderpool decided a little bit over halfway through the race that it was enough, that those five should be a little bit separated, and he attacked. Actually, when he attacked, there was nobody that really responded on it. Pidcock tried to bridge that gap, but stuck halfway through and couldn't really come closer. Van Aert was a little bit more behind Van Toerenhout and Iserbyt. I think maybe a little hold up. Tried to bridge that gap, but only came to Pidcock, overtook Pidcock afterwards, and had to settle then for second. And it was Vanderpool in the end who won the first race of the 2021 season, in front for Van Aert and Pidcock.
So that win of Vanderpool in the beginning of the race, he looked to be chilling a bit in the group, not going maximum full out, waiting a bit, perhaps with the races of tomorrow and the day after tomorrow in his head. But then when he attacked, he did it on a really smart moment, in my opinion. I personally think that he waited until Van Toerenhout or Iserbyt was in the lead. This time it was Van Toerenhout in the lead. He knew, Van Toerenhout, I can drop him, and he tried to use him as a mobile chicane. So Van Aert and Pidcock first needed to pass him. What do you guys think about this?
I think definitely it was a calculated move, because there were two guys in between Van Aert and Vanderpool then, so he definitely had looked behind. He knew what the situation was, and it was a very smart move to do. But I think especially an elite rider like Van Aert should have been a little bit attentive in a way. I think Van Aert is like really a guy that is very smart in his racing skills. He knows where he has to follow another rider, so it's I think a mistake that Van Aert made that we don't see that often, and Vanderpool was very smart, and I think that really won him the race.
Of course, Van Aert also had that crash on that off-camber that maybe hampered him a bit, and that was maybe a reason that he was a bit further at the back of the group.
Yeah, true, but in the end, you should never let Vanderpool go on that place so quickly, so easily. I think that Van Aert didn't even try to move up front after that move of Vanderpool, so I think that he definitely lost the race here, and he definitely lost that race in that move there to not follow Vanderpool.
Yeah, it's just very good racecraft, I think, by Vanderpool. It's just a moment where Van Aert is too far back. He has probably the worst person in the group on his wheel, and at that moment he knows just open the race now, or it's probably going down to a last lap with how good Van Aert was looking today.
For at least the first, maybe 2/3 of the race, Van der Poel looked in complete control of this race, knowing exactly when to react on which attack. But then afterwards, he said that he dug really deep. He didn't have his best day. What do you guys think? Because I personally never really had the feeling that he was going that deep during the race.
I think that he was definitely pushed to a certain level of effort. After the race, he did his interview and he looked tired in a way. So I don't know if that's really true or not. But I would say that he couldn't relax the last lap because Van Aert was chasing him down. He did relax a little bit, I think, but not much. And I think he wanted to have a little bit a bigger gap to have a little bit of rest, because his program is pretty tough and pretty busy.
Well, I think he was certainly pushed by Van Aert and Pidcock. Maybe not as much as he made it look in the end, but they certainly pushed him quite far. Pidcock in the first half and then Van Aert in the second half of his lead. Actually, they did quite the opposite. What does this tell you about their performance today?
I think that Pidcock was very aggressive. Pidcock was, he was the first one, I guess, of the group that really tried to break that whole group what they had, which he succeeded in one part, and then they all came back. And he was the first to react on Vanderpool, which I think that braked him up a little bit in that race. I think the effort that he had to put in to get as close as possible to Vanderpool, in the end, cost him to be good at the end of the race. And I'm not sure if he would have held off Van Aert, but he would have been definitely a little bit closer for second place.
I think both riders there just went maximum effort. It's completely fine as well with them not racing tomorrow. And it wasn't quite enough today. Maybe on different parcours they will have a bit more luck.
I think then we can take a look at the entire top 10. Behind the top 3 of Vanderpool, Van Aert and Pidcock, we saw the 2 riders of Ballwalshausen, Iserbyt and Van Toornhout. Then we saw 2 guys of Baloise Trek, the new team name there. Toon Aerts in front of Lars van der Haar. Toon Aerts never really got in a rhythm. After a crash and recovery ride for Corné van Kessel to end 8th in front of Belgian champion Laurens Sweeck, and it was Quinten Hermans who ended 10th. Let's immediately go back to the rider in 4th, Eli Iserbyt. He came back after his crash in Zolder, and I think he did a good job, especially considering the circumstances he needed to start in today.
Yeah, I think in the podcast we did after Breden, I said that Iserbyt, if he would return, should be happy if he still managed to get a top 10 place, which, by the way, the top 10 on this race is, you should be very proud if you're able to get in there as someone that isn't usually there right now, because it's so strong. But Eli Iserbyt surpassing all expectations, looking pretty much completely fine, riding a very good race today.
I think it's one of the first races that we had all 4 or 5 guys without any problems in the front group, and it was very good to see what the differences would be between the riders. I think that Iserbyt really didn't have much damage from his crash. It seemed that everything worked pretty fine. I think he lost a little bit of condition. Maybe he couldn't train after that crash, and he's losing a little bit of volume in his training program. But he definitely looked pretty good, and I think that he should be very happy with the 4th place, and he is ever so close to secure this X2O Badkamers Trofee classification.
Yeah, I agree with that, especially because Toon Aerts once again didn't have the best race. I think it's maybe just not his season, and that injury just adds to it. I think it's just not going the way he wants to, and I don't really know what he can do about it, because we've said it week after week, things aren't going the way as he wants it to be going at this point of the season.
No, Toon Aerts was, in my opinion, even, it's a home race for them, for the Baloise Trek Lions. So I expected actually a little bit, better results from the guys from Nice. Yeah, you can really say that it is a little bit disappointing from Aerts. I expected him a little bit more in the front, definitely top 5. Now ending in 6th, and really anonymous race in a way, because the cameras didn't really focus on him that much because we had those 5 in the lead. And yeah, it's we have to start wondering how hard of an impact that crash had that he had with in training, and if that is maybe going to hamper his complete season in a way.
Yeah, I would have to agree with Issam. I think the crash had a impact on Toon Aerts, and it's costing him, especially in this Christmas period. He's just missing a % here and there, and but he's still performing to a very high standard. So I think we can only applaud him for this. Maybe he would have been better off taking a bit of a rest. We'll never know.
Then 2 more things about the men's race. First of all, the unfortunate disqualification of the Canadian champion, Michael van der Ham. He got disqualified for entering the pit lane in the wrong direction. I tweeted something about that because I heard the speaker saying something about it, so that was just to clarify that, what happened there. And then finally, something new in this podcast. Leading towards the World Championships, we are going to give you the results of the under-23 riders who rode in the elite race. We're doing this because they don't ride their own race, and we want to give you guys a picture of who we can expect at the front at the Worlds in Ostend. So the results here in today for the under-23 riders were Turner in first in front of Kielig in second and Kamp in third. Turner is really putting himself down as a force to be reckoned with at the World Championships this way.
Ben Turner really going on an impressive run, right as Ryan Kamp isn't doing quite as well as maybe he was at the start of the season. Certainly heading for an interesting World Championships at this rate.
Yeah, it's an alright result from the riders. I think Kamp a little bit disappointing. He started so good and so strong in the beginning of the season, but like it seems to be that the season is coming a little bit longer and longer for Kamp, and that he's struggling in the last few races. But definitely a good result for Turner, and indeed it's going to be very interesting to see what the under-23 championships will bring for us.
Yeah, I agree about Kamp. Usually he was in the back end of the top 10, sometimes even in the middle, but today he just managed to outsprint Thibaut Nys, who ended 18th in his home race. Things are improving for Nys as well, and maybe it's coming at the right time towards the World Championships. Who knows? But there was more racing than just the men's race. As per usual, the women's race was there as well, and this time we had another exciting race there with a cool battle between Alvarado and Brand. Tell us about it, Twan.
Yeah, so we started off quite quickly with Denise Betsma again pushing very hard in that first lap, immediately making a split, Alvarado able to follow her and Brand catching up as well. And these three would go on to battle it out for the remainder of the race. But slowly but surely it became clear that Betsma didn't quite have it today and she would be dropped. And it was Alvarado that was able to put in a final acceleration to take victory ahead of Lucinda Brand.
Key moment in that last lap, which was very exciting, was the moment when they topped the last hill. Brand didn't get in her pedal, trying twice, and that really cost her, because yes, Alvarado had a 2-second gap, but 2 seconds got 4 seconds because of that, and I think Brand might have been able to make a sprint out of it, but Alvarado afterwards also said that she was desperate to not make it end in a sprint, because she had some kind of problem with her shoe, and she was afraid she would lose her shoe in the sprint, and well, we all know what would have happened if that would have happened.
No, it's more risking an injury by crashing on that final straight. So good job on her by avoiding that sprint.
Yeah, I think that that it was a very good race that we have seen with the women's race, and very nice duo as well. I think Brand really wanted to show herself in the new colors, and she had an Alvarado that was just a little bit stronger, a little bit more technical in a way. She made a few mistakes in the beginning, but after a while she really got in a rhythm, and then there was nothing to do against her. And I guess those hiccups that Brand had cost her a little bit, but in the end I think the strongest won.
I think so as well, and what was key to this win of Alvarado was her sublime technique. I've heard commentators saying that Brand improved her technique, and yes, I agree, she did improve her cornering, but in pure cornering I think nobody matches Alvarado. Brand, yes, she improved her technique, but I think it's mainly a confidence thing, because I heard people say it at downhills, but at these downhills I think it's more confusing confidence with technique. Now she has the confidence to fully send it and still manage to control her bike, whilst in the corners Alvarado is of course also a bit smaller and goes through them a bit faster.
Yeah, I think that race in Herentals, where he had the very long straight descent, showed that a little bit. I think the way Brand descended there was a full send. There was the bravery was that was maximum sending, and that has a little bit to do with technique, but that has a lot to do with confidence. And I think that really showed it there that she has a lot of confidence. But in terms of technique, if we go about real cornering and really the handling of your bike, I think Brand comes a little short on Alvarado.
Let's take a look at the entire top 10 then. Behind the podium of Alvarado, Brand and Betsma, we saw a strong ride by Fem van Empel to end in front of Sanne Kant. Then we saw Annemarie Worst in front of Clara Honsinger, Jara Kastelein, Manon Bakker and Laura Verdonschot. Let's jump straight back to Fem van Empel. Of course, it was an impressive ride by her, but it was also a rookie mistake by Kant, who got beaten on the line by Fem van Empel in the sprint.
Yeah, I think very impressive by Van Empel as well, fighting to the line. and just an amazing ride as well, getting in 4th place, beating out the likes of Kant and Worst.
Yeah, I think a really strong performance from Van Empel, and fighting till the line. That's what you want to see. And I think Kant was a little bit surprised that she was coming, and she tried everything to get in front, but in the end, it was Van Empel that got that 4th place, and really good job for such a young rider.
Then behind Van Empel and Kant, we saw 2 riders who disappointed a bit here today. Worst in 6th and Honsinger in 7th. For Worst, it's more of a season thing here. I don't think it's her season after that injury she got on the mountain bike, overtraining a bit, and I think it's just not her season. And for her, I mean, she will probably hoping to improve towards the World Championships, but it's hard to see it happen now. For Honsinger, it's more of a question what happened here today. She was tipped to be one of the favorites, also by Sven Nys. In the end, ending 7th. I don't really know what was up. Maybe the parkour was just not hard enough, but I don't really know.
Yeah, I think it's really becoming more and more disappointing, where we saw like a bit of a light at the end of the tunnel in... where was it again exactly? In Heuse-Zolder, where at least I definitely thought that she had turned a new leaf, had found the energy again to get going, and then you see this performance again. It's a bit disappointing, especially for her qualities. She can do so much more. I mean, we saw it last year, really being able to fight for a lot of victories there. And for Clara Honsinger, I just think today I guess it wasn't tough enough. A bit disappointing maybe, but also wasn't the longest race of the year, which doesn't really help her, I think.
Yeah, I think it was very slippery. It was hard, but it was not the hardest race that we had this season. I think for Worst, maybe what helped her in her good result in Zolder was the fact that she had a lot of rest. Rest does wonders, and I think that really helped her to be outperforming the rest and outperforming our expectations in her return. Now the rest is now a little bit gone. The training sessions are harder and harder, and now you see the real shape forming up compared to the others, because the others were racing a very long time, and they had a lot of races under their belts. She skipped a few, and I think that really made the difference in Zolder, and moving from there on, made it a little bit harder for her to perform again on that same level. For Honsinger, I think the race was just not really that hard. I thought that the climbing would suit her a little bit, but you could just see that she was not really getting in the rhythm to fight for a top 5. And in the end, she came a little bit short, but I think still a pretty good performance to be in the top 10 in front of a lot of good girls, good women.
Then here we'll give you the top 3 of the under 23 riders as well. As said, a strong ride by Van Empel. 4th was enough to secure first under 23. In 2nd and 3rd were Bakker and Van Alphen. Not really a lot to say about this in my opinion, but maybe more to say for the 4th one, Madigan Monroe, first year under 23 from USA. She's been improving steadily over the last couple of weeks, and I think she's definitely someone with some big potential.
Yeah, I've been watching her performances more closely, and it's really been impressive, beating out some of the elderly stateswomen of the American team as well. Very impressive. Of course, today we are missing some of the important U23 riders in the women's category.
Perhaps some of those riders who weren't here today will be lining up tomorrow, but tomorrow it looks to be more a matter of who is there than rather who isn't, because Vanderpool and Pidcock are lining up, but the others, they're already in Hulst preparing for the World Cup, which makes sense in a busy period like that. So do you guys think there's any other way than a duel between Pidcock and Vanderpool in the men's race?
Yeah, it's unavoidable, I guess, for them to not find each other in a duel, but the way Vanderpool was riding against Toonaerts in Bredene, is probably a little bit. It's going to be a little bit of the same. I think he's gonna pick his moment halfway through the race, maybe a little bit later, and we have to see. You should see how the race will shape up, and how the legs will feel after Baal.
Yeah, battle between those two is unavoidable. I think we can expect Vanderpool to at least wait until half cross to really try something. I think he's been quite conservative, or trying to be quite conservative with his energy over the past 2 races.
Looking at our predictions, we all do seem to agree on what will happen here in Gullegem. It will probably be a bit of a muddy race, with Vanderpool as winner is what we all expect in front of Pidcock. Then for third place, that's where we see some differences in our predictions. Myself and Twan went with Vermeers, and Issam went with Thibaut Nys. But there's also a women's race there, and not everyone is there at the start as well. But the riders who are there, we're pretty confident that Vos will win, as we all three predicted Vos as winner. Then here are the differences. In second place, I have Kant, Twan has Van der Heijden, and Issam has Kant as well. In third place, I have Van der Heijden, Twan has Kant, and Issam has Van Alphen. So the top threes are myself, Vos, Kant, Van der Heijden, Twan, Vos, Van der Heijden, Kant, Issam, Vos, Kant, Van Alphen. Vos, of course, won the race in Bredene. Do you expect a similar scenario like when she won then, that she will break away from the rest pretty easy in the beginning of the race?
I think we're going to see the same, pretty much the same as in Bredene. She might struggle a little longer to get rid of the rest, but it should be pretty comfortable.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a little bit more of the same. It definitely helps that she didn't do Baal today, and she's going to be fresh at the start in Gullegem.
Mud in Gullegem, but snow in Hittnau for the last race in the EKZ cross. And here we have some different predictions. So we'll start off. I have Kuhn, Looks, Boros. Twan has the first two the same, Kuhn and Looks, but he has Forster in third. Issam goes with Flukiger as winner in front of Meissen and Weber. And Tom also predicted this race. He thinks Ruek will win in front of Boros and Kuhn. As I said, it will be a snowy race there. Do you guys think the snow will really affect the way the race goes?
Yeah, I definitely think that the snow will affect the race, and especially if there's not going to be a new layer of snow and the temperature is going to be below 0 degrees. It's going to be a little bit more slippery, maybe a little bit harder. So I think definitely that you can look forward to a surprise result there.
Yeah, it will be interesting with the snow. Not something that everyone is used to, of course, as we don't get it that often anymore, especially down here in the Netherlands or in Belgium. So it will be very interesting to see.
Then for the women's race, Tom, Issam and Twan all think the same. Lechner in front of Majerus and Helene Clausel. I went a bit different. I had Majerus in front of Lechner and Helene Clausel. Maybe any of you guys has a dark horse to tip here, because this is all pretty much the same.
Yeah, I think that Alma Johansson would be a dark horse for this race. I definitely think that she would be able to get a top 10 for sure. Maybe even a top 5 to surprise us. But I think with the snow, maybe she can handle it pretty well. And she had some okay results this season, and maybe this is going to be a good race for her.
On a different note, I think some of the Czech women like Stepanova, Havlikova, and Bashkrova are people that we have to watch out for. Czechs are, of course, renowned for being able to ride quite well in the snow. So it will be interesting to see if they can do anything tomorrow in Hittnau.
Then the last race that we're going to discuss is the C1 race in France, in Troyes to be specific. And here we all have the same for the places 1 and 2. Bakset in front of Schreiber. And in third place, myself and Tom have Burquier. Twan has Fourcunet. And Issam has Morel Petit Girard. And I think this says something that we don't even know all of these riders, and we have some complete junior podiums. I think it says something about the quality of the start field, but on the other hand, hey, you need to be there to race, and they're organizing a race, so fair play to them.
It definitely says something about the quality of the starting field there, but it's a C1 race, so a lot of points to grab for the riders and ridesters, and I think that is definitely going to be interesting to see what's going to happen in that race.
Then the last race that we predicted is the men's race there. Here I'm just going to name all the top threes because we have some complete different things. I have Joshua Dubois in front of Steve Chanel and Clément Venturini. Twan has Venturini to win actually in front of David van der Poel and Crispin. Then Issam has Venturini to win as well, but in front of Rousseau and Joshua Dubois. And Tom has David van der Poel to win in front of Venturini and Dubois. So Venturini and Dubois, these are the names that are coming back here. But it looks to be a bit of a more open race, and luckily for us, it's streamed as well.
Yeah, it's very nice that the race is streamed, and definitely interesting to see what's going to happen in that race. And I think for Dubois is probably the man to watch, but it can be a surprise race because it seems to be a race to be in a park, and you never know in those races how it's going to be lying there. It can be a very fast race. But maybe with the rain it can change the whole parcours completely, and we might see other riders rising in that start list.
Well, then I think we had it all for today. Tomorrow we'll be actually talking about what happened in all these 3 races. So for now I would like to thank Twan and Issam for joining me to talk about Baal.
Thank you for having me on.
Thank you for hosting.
And with that said, it's time to round off this episode of the Cyclocross Social podcast. If you liked it, don't forget to leave it a rating or share it with your cyclocross friends, and I will see you guys tomorrow for a new podcast. See you then. Goodbye.